All right, folks. Welcome to Leadership Uncertain. We come together, we two friends, we two fellow leaders, to talk about adventures in confusion, power, love, and dignity. And we come to share our thoughts with you. Peter Drucker famously said, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." And it turns out he probably never actually said that. So I thought we could talk today about something that you and I have talked about offline a number of times.
Sure.
Company culture. And I've titled today's episode, "What the hell is culture and who the hell cares?" So what the hell is culture and who the hell cares?
It's amazing. I was reading a really great book by Ben Horowitz. I know I recommended it to you. It's called The Hard Thing About Hard Things.
Yeah,
And I hope you got to the portion where he
I've
was
read the whole
actually
thing. Yeah.
great. Great. So one of the beautiful discussions about culture is it's distinct, it's wonderful, it's diverse. The answer's all over the place depending on who you ask. And it only matters if you're actually making money and making a dent, because who the hell cares about culture if you're not actually being effective in the marketplace? Um, I get that. Assuming that you're worth a lick of salt and value in the marketplace and you're delivering something that people actually want to buy with enough scale that it's not just you and your significant other or whoever else is in the world trying to help you get by. Uh, if you have three or more people, then chances are, well, if you have two or more people, chances are you have a culture. And I guess in my world, culture reflects the actual behavior that happens when you stop pretending to project.
Mm.
So it's the actual thing that shows up about how you relate, how you treat each other, and what your actual, I don't want to say beliefs, because the beliefs again are a mental projection, whereas culture is more collective, and it's collective behavior and tradition in the backdrop of, hopefully something that is holding you together, moving along in what is an amalgamated direction for an outcome that you're hoping to get to together.
Yeah.
Whether that's intentional or not, haha, that's also part of the beautiful discovery.
Well, there you go. The way we at the Yes Works define culture, we think of it as it's the set of contagious attitudes and behaviors in any community of people, and in our business, it's the set of contagious attitudes and behaviors in your company. And a couple of interesting things about that. One is they are all contagious, and the other is that you can't measure or know another person's attitude. Just like you can't see the wind, you can only see the effects that it has on the things that may blow around in it. And when it comes to the contagion, kind of like COVID, different people have different symptoms within
Mhm.
that, within whatever that is, it is that they've been infected by. And I use infected in a neutral sense here. You can
Sure.
be infected by joy, or you can be infected by people are talking an awful lot about entitlement these days, and there being a
Mhm.
culture of entitlement. It's all contagious.
Well, and I guess the other thing to make sure that we address responsibly is that it's not static either. It's not a it's a process more than it is a condition.
Mm.
So
Indeed. Yes, I mean we can get a snapshot, and like anything else, it is ever changing. I remember, I remember a client who came to us once, and he kind of slid a bunch of papers across the table and said, "Here's our culture." I thought, "Oh, really?"
We
Um,
have to have a lot of conversations.
and of course, what it turned out to be was a description of the culture that he wished for.
Sure, sure. And this is the battle, right? There's the culture, and we say the word. There is the series of behaviors and the ethos that you aspire to achieve as a leader. You think about, well, what are, we one of the convenient crutches to begin to hope for how you'd like your workplace to operate is you rely on things like mission and values and all that stuff. And what we have experienced is, yeah, culture actually, I don't know that you can create a culture from mission and values. I think your culture kind of comes first, and you can inform your mission and values from however you're oriented.
Hmm.
I don't know that you can top down it, but maybe you can. Maybe somebody out there has been intentional about it and then brought it in. I know I haven't.
I
25
think it
years
all
at
kind of
this.
goes every which a way.
Yeah.
One of the things that's happened recently in a company that we've worked with is they've leaned harder into their mission.
Okay.
And they've kind of brought it more front and center. We've
Yeah,
also
but let's dig into that because I already feel something fishy. So that mission existed as an external exploration or expression of something,
right.
right? That was already some core
Yes, it was
groups,
already there, to be fair.
and the mission is usually an external expression of something you want to bring into the world that is congruent with you,
Yeah.
from which culture is accessible and is an accessory to achieving said mission.
I don't know. Gets all gets kind of heady for me the way you're describing it a little bit.
Tell me
Uh
why.
I was just going to say tell me more.
Okay, let's go there. So, state a mission, just off the top of your head. State a mission that makes sense, even if it's your own, whether or not.
Sure. Well, let's talk about a client of mine. Their mission, and I don't remember the exact articulation of the statement.
Sure.
It's an electrical repair company, and their
Hmm.
mission is essentially to bring their electrical expertise to
Hmm.
bear
Hmm.
for clients in
Hmm.
order to make their homes comfortable, convenient,
Hmm.
and most importantly, safe.
Okay. Comfortable, convenient, and safe. And there's a focus on expertise. So what that tells me, if that's authentic, right? There is some kernel, there's some core at this company that has a fair amount of experience, that had some kind of event or episode in their history that made it so that the compelling reason to do the work was to bring that for themselves.
I don't follow.
The feeling that comfort, you just described it, the comfort, the
Convenience and safety, right?
convenience, and the safety,
Yeah.
that the reason that we have missions with mission statements with words like that is not because we care about convenience, comfort, and safety. It's because there is a feeling associated with those words that we are drawn to.
Okay.
Right. So somewhere there is a core group of people in that company for whom that feeling is where they feel themselves gravitating towards, and that's how they have best found to articulate it.
Let's assume that you're correct.
Okay.
So what?
So the idea is that the culture and the orientation around achieving that feeling came first, not the mission.
Sure.
That's my thesis. It's because we have the thing, the feelings that drive the mission, that we find ourselves gravitating towards the thing we're describing. And if enough of us agree that this thing is in line with the best of who we are, now we have an
Okay,
external source to point our attention to, and we coalesce around a series of behaviors that get us there. And that
indeed.
becomes, when it crystallizes enough, that becomes the thing we describe as culture, is my thesis.
Okay, and so I think we're starting to get into some mutual understanding and probably some agreement here,
Sure.
which is that at its best, a mission statement is not something that we go, oh, and we gravitate toward this thing like a moth to a flame,
No.
so much as it is. Uh, it's self recognition that ignites us when we see this mission. If we're coming into a company that's already got a mission, we're drawn to it because that is some way that we can attack or uh, engage with who we believe we are at our core, what is valuable to us, and that's one of the reasons that I think
And
a
that's why people
strong and
leave. That's why
sorry,
people leave is when they're that's the other reason why a lot of people will leave is because they are not
they don't.
absolutely
Yes,
aligned with the thing that we have all coalesced around. Please continue.
100%. I agree with you. And so, at its best, a mission statement becomes like any good marketing,
Hmm.
kind of a filter.
Absolutely.
And what I find is missing in a lot of mission statements is the ability to respond to it in any kind of guttural, gut level way at all, because it's full of $10 words and it's so general that you could likely apply it to any company on the planet and it would still fit almost as well. You can't have an emotional response to it because it's vague or intellectual or
Well, and so I think, and in our personal case, the mission has one place, the values have another. So the
mm,
mission might live on its own, and when you combine mission and values, if they are authentic. And what do I mean by authentic? I mean, do they pass the BS meter? Do they pass the BS test? BS test is this: you look at the company's leaders, three top people at the company, you read off the list of things they said, and if these three people do not embody these six things, we have BS.
agreed.
And to the extent that they are out of sync with the things that you're reading off the paper, then you know how much BS you're working with. So somebody came through and did a consulting job and gave them a mission statement versus in our case, we took 6 months. I did not appreciate that it was going to take 6 months for us to come up with a mission statement as a company of, I think there were 9 of us when we did it. But when we did it and we were satisfied that everybody on the team was describing something that was real. I want to say that of the 9 of us that were on the team then, and we made our mission statement and values 2017, 2018, somewhere in there. It's been 8 years. And I want to say 7 of those 9 people are still with us. And they represent the core of who we are.
And no doubt, it's part of what keeps them going when times are rough. It's part of what helps them recruit other people because they're
Mhm.
ignited by it.
Well, and to be fair to you, I will admit that it is my cheat code. Because one of the things I have to deal with, and I really appreciated this book that we read, because it talked about a lot of things that nobody I feel in the space really talks about. I mean,
Hmm.
just the sheer loneliness and just the difficulty of the choices we have to make on a regular basis. And when I get hit with problems I don't know how to solve, and I get hit with those quite often, like people will bring me. I had a really good buddy of mine who runs a company that teaches accountants and lawyers how to manage mergers and acquisitions, like how to actually facilitate them, structure them so that they have a good chance of actually being successful and protecting everyone involved. It's a beautiful business that he has. And what he says to me, I think he's grown, I think he's been at it now almost 10 years. No, more than that now. And he has a whole staff now. It's just him and his brother when he got started, and now he's an entire force to be reckoned with. And what he shared with me is, you know what? I have every day is the hardest day for me because the problems I have to solve, I have never faced them before. And I guess the other perspective is I have a good enough team now that handles everything that's easier. So I only have the hardest problems to solve.
Right.
And so for me, I'm at a place now where I don't really have a lot of easy problems anymore. And what's really nice is that the format now that I use for problem solving starts with, well, if I were to have the solution, who would I be? And is that person in congruence with these 6 things on the sheet? So going back to the mission statement and the values normally provides me with kind of a rubric. You know, are we a place where chaos fades away? Are we solving for a customer challenge that really matters? Are we, and the other ones just kind of fall in. They're actually written on the blackboard behind me. So the idea is that they're always there. So when the impossible shows up, there's at least a way to filter out infinite solutions to a few that make sense for the way we're going to approach problem solving. And strangely enough, that's where the reinforcement comes. So the initial creation of the mission statement and values that might exist don't they're not axiomatic. They don't show up out of nowhere and just exist. They come from the thing that is the seed of the culture, but now you have a feedback loop. So the values and the mission now serve as a guidepost for what you were saying before, and they help inform the decisions about how you hire, fire, engage, support, all the other things you do in your business. And it reinforces the culture that reinforces the mission and the values that reinforce the culture that reinforce. And so you have this really cool feedback loop that then can potentially happen.
One of the functions I think of a really great mission that you can sink your teeth into,
Mm.
and that resonates deeply with who you are, and who everyone, if you've got a group full of people with whom it resonates, and
Mm.
for whom it really matters, and which they can sink their teeth into, then the petty falls away. And there are so many of my clients, I'm sure, there are lots of companies out there where, and I've worked in some of these companies where people are engaged in petty little arguments all the time, you know, like I think about the movie Office Space, all this petty little
Mm.
niggling shit that gets in people's craw. And because the mission isn't resonating with them, or because the mission isn't something that you can sink your teeth into, or because the mission isn't made alive every day,
Mm.
that petty stuff feels really big.
Well,
And so it
so
comes out and it becomes a part of the relationships. It's not that in a company where with a really strong mission that petty stuff doesn't exist. It just doesn't rise to the level of something we ought to deal with, because
well,
what we are dealing with is so alive.
you are so right. And there's a phrase
But
that comes
say
to
that
mind.
again.
Ah, don't get too excited. That there is something that comes to mind as you say that. Uh, because the other side of it is when your mission is big enough and compelling enough, there be heroes, right?
Mm.
The idea is, at least in our world, we're such a small team, and the problems and the bite of the apple that we have chosen to take on is bigger than we ever will be.
Mm.
So there is always so much to do, and everybody matters. Like everybody matters. And we have a culture of finding and celebrating heroes. And so there's a meeting, and there's a section in this meeting that happens every Tuesday that is called the weekly wins section.
Mm.
And I think the way that it was originally designed by EOS, I'm an EOS fan. The weekly wins was designed to be people celebrating wins they have, just wins they have and positive wins they have. Somehow that's not how it's evolved in this company. What happens now is that other people will find heroes in the business to highlight.
I love
Normally
that.
started by our project managers, they will call out a processor that went above and beyond the call of duty to deliver blah 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 on time or before the customer needed it. Somebody else will call out, so what has happened is I don't have a weekly win. I have not seen one in years. I don't know that I can think of one that was done where somebody celebrated their own win.
Somebody said, "Here's what I accomplished." It's always
Never, it has
here's
not happened.
here's what Jamie accomplished.
Yes. And so
I love
people are
that.
pointing all over the room about, hey, this person did this thing and they deserve a shout out. Shout out to blah, 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 blah. And not intentional. We never did that. But the leadership team, it's funny. So a lot of my thinking is actually informed by the Tao Te Ching. And one of the things I think I may have shared with you is it shares about its tome on leadership. And it says, the best, I'm paraphrasing Sanskrit and whatever the language was that Lao Tzu spoke. The idea is that the best leaders create the space that the people have done it themselves. We have done this.
Look what we have done, right?
Look at what we have done. And you're doing something well when somebody's selling you your own ideas.
That's right.
And it's like, all right, cool. Got it. No
Very cool.
problem. Very
And
cool. And
that it makes me think about the best in leadership. The best leaders that I have been around are those who serve a purpose, not even necessarily the people.
Okay.
They've chosen a purpose, be it the mission or something internal. And they said, this is what matters to me. And they seek to serve that purpose. And so if you are a champion of the purpose and somebody else comes to sell you your own ideas, then great.
Well, so there's a beauty, and here's what I've come to find out. So we're going to talk about the petty, right? Because that was a really great point you made. And petty things happen because people need to exist. So let's go back to the Latin word exist. It has two parts, ex and ist. Ex comes from the Latin, which indicates outside of, and ist suggests material that forms matter. So to exist means to live or to have form outside of. And so we find that people must seek meaning. It is one of the core movements of what it means for us to be human.
Indeed.
And so if your mission isn't big enough for you to be a hero or a villain, because we fight our customers sometimes as villains or heroes, because they see us sometimes as heroes or villains, and the ego is satisfied either way. You just fill a role and play it, because now you get to exist. There gets to be drama. There gets to be meaning that is afforded to your next breath, right? If the mission isn't big enough, you will find whatever it will take for you to get that hit of dopamine.
Big time. And speaking of which I mean, that lines up so well with some of what just in the last year we have added to the way in which we serve our customers to help them craft culture, is that I was hearing enough we've got an us versus them problem in our company. We've got an us versus them problem in our company. We've got an us versus them problem in our company.
Mhm.
I heard it enough that I did a bunch of research on evolutionary psychology and things like that, and we've just plain got us versus them wiring in our brains.
No, it's worse than that. It's in the back of our spines. It's like almost lizard
Oh
brain
yeah, like
behavior.
really deep in there, us
Hmm.
versus them wiring.
Yes.
And so we are going to engage. It's just fate, right? The fate of brain wiring. We are going to engage in us versus them thinking and us versus them behavior.
Right.
And so in addition to working with clients on let's craft a really compelling mission, we're also working to craft a
Who's the
really
enemy?
compelling adversary.
Who's the enemy?
And
And
so in
you're
this
right.
electrical
You're
company,
you're
and
you're
I don't
you're
love the word enemy. Just
you're right. You're right. An adversarial relationship is so much more useful. So
and
not the
so
word enemy, adversary is better. Keep going.
the adversary that they have chosen is that the fact that people's homes are left to faulty wiring and future house fires.
Mm,
And so they are out there every day. Yes, we're aiming for comfort and convenience and safety, and we are fighting future house fires. Now imagine, you work for this company where your uniform says something like fighting future house fires,
damn.
and your wife has a shirt that says my husband is fighting future house fires, and your baby is wearing a onesie that says my daddy is or my mommy is fighting future house fires. You're gonna bring it on a different level than somebody who just goes out to be an electrician every day.
Yeah. So in our world, we fight. There are a couple of really challenging issues in that people get told what they should want.
Hmm.
That's a big that is so for me, creating the most successful businesses I've ever created have been ones where I was customer zero. So I understand
Mhm.
the motivations and the frustrations of the person I'm speaking to because we create the system and then we go find more me's. People who understand, oh my God, this is a thing that is absolutely not acceptable. And I can say these things and they go, somebody sees and hears me.
Right.
Um, we fight the the absolute frustration that comes from a consultant telling you you can't have what you want. You shouldn't want what you want.
Oh, no
People
kidding.
come into their offices and tell them, and they do it, and they say, "You don't need your data. You don't need it. What do you need it for? None of your goddamn business is what you need it. No, I need my data because I need it. Now, in my case, I needed it because I had $55 million worth of lines of credit that were about to go, into default because we were making payments, but I wasn't able to get reporting to them. And I had a staff that was about to quit if they had to deal with the fallout from doing the procedure the way the consultant wanted us to do it at the time. So for me, it was very clear why I needed to have what I needed to. And then I could go so far as to not have to project my own stuff onto why this request has come through, just find a way to get them what they want and make sure that it's affordable. That became our mission. And more people, and the way we deliver it, we also are interested in removing the opacity and the confusion with which these things are delivered. So we are fighting daily confusion and the lack of clarity that
Mm.
people have as they go through this process. So it's not enough to just do the work, but we also have to be a space where chaos fades away because people are in a very vulnerable time where they want to know that they're making a good decision and that they're going to land on the other side and be able to operate.
Mm.
Because if not, $100 million company could be crippled because of it, right? Or a
Mhm.
$1 billion company, however big they are. So the idea is that the stress is intense, And so we focus on stability and making sure that they can sleep at night and that they are fine. This is not about moving data from here to here. This is about creating a space where an entire team is taken care of as
Mm,
they transition in a very vulnerable space. And when our people who come to work for us understand that that's what we're delivering, this is not about Excel spreadsheets.
right.
Yes, there's Excel spreadsheets involved, but this is about delivering peace and ease and kindness and compassion to folks that are sometimes committed to their own sabotage. Go ahead.
And on a day when I'm tired and I don't feel like it, I will get up to do that. I will come to work to do that. And on a day when I will not come to work to do battle with spreadsheets.
Well, so let me share one more thing with
I
you.
may do battle with spreadsheets in order to accomplish that.
Well, I have many days that have exactly that same energy. And where it made the difference for us, we have an exit interview that was highlighted in it was one of our internal reviewers. So we have an exit interview review process where somebody will highlight what they found a customer saying, either
Mm,
written or in the audio. And he was so struck by what the customer said that he had to highlight it in our company meeting. And he said, "This is the impact of our work." The customer said, and if this is a joke, this is a dark joke. She said, "I am so relieved that you guys came and did what you did because now I don't have to commit suicide."
wow.
And it's not the first time I've heard that. And so when we know that sometimes that's the context for which we get to deliver service, of course, I'll get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I had to, just to make sure that it is right because somebody out there is going to be able to have Christmas dinner with their children, which is
Right.
another, testimonial we got. I was able to enjoy time with my family for the first time in 5 years because I didn't know that this was a thing that could happen because of what you guys do. When that becomes the thing that you are reinforcing your culture with, that is showing that there's mission. Who cares who did what in what tea party, what social, or somebody said something nasty to somebody? Who
Yep.
cares? Because that's the stuff that we're going for. And to your point, when that becomes the focus of the company, all of the littler things, especially when you are highlighting wins and you're showing people as heroes and they get to see themselves as heroes and they have internal projects for which they are responsible for bringing things to the world, and they know that the boss, he's an asshole sometimes. He's a real jerk. However, he also knows that if you have a better idea than he does, he will heel to you publicly if necessary. And if that's the space that you can create where people can be creative, they can talk, they can bring up hard topics, they can show your weaknesses and they know they won't be chastised for it. They are celebrated as heroes for the things they create and their contributions are constantly being highlighted where they are authentically appropriate, and they know they're actually making a difference where people's lives are better because of what they do. There be heroes. Your thoughts?
Something in what you were just saying reminded me of a message that I got this week from a friend who runs a company, managed services company. And he called, just to let me know about something that had happened in his company that had touched him. Because
Mm,
he's been working to shift the culture. And, uh, speaking of people who can be a jerk, he's told me, I can really be a jerk, and people, it really is a problem. We I've known him for almost a decade now,
mm.
and he's really been making strides with
Okay.
his team. And he wrote me so proud that someone one of his team had come to him and said, I am really frustrated with the way you ran our all hands. You were totally unprepared.
Mm.
And he was so proud that
It was
someone had
safe.
had the gumption
Yeah, and it was
and
safe.
felt safe enough to tell him how they were feeling
Hmm.
and how he was a part of that experience for them.
That's such a beautiful story. You just reminded me. So this week, one of the things that happens in our Tuesday meeting is we rotate. Every employee has an opportunity to do. Well, I don't know if it's an opportunity or they're just forced to do it. We can debate that, but they're voluntold to do what's called a cascading message. So for a minute and a half or 2 minutes, they get to share whatever they want to share, and they're actually not. They're not they're not censored. Like their topic is not priorly. They're not prior approved. So whatever they want to say is whatever they want to say, and I maybe there's going to be a process someday that brings that in. Maybe I don't know, but right now it's never been a problem, and we've been doing it for 9 years, so we'll see. This last Tuesday, the title on the sheet when we got to that part of the meeting was 99 useless ideas. That was the name of the title of the cascading message, and it was delivered by one of our lead processors. And he basically came on and said, my message is very simple. I have been having bad ideas since I was a child. I've been having just useless ideas all the time. And he said that this is the first place he has ever worked where he has no problem sharing his useless ideas as
Mm.
they come out as a flurry. And I started laughing and I was muted, but I was laughing and he said, see, and he was laughing at me and he knows I have come at him with so many stupid, useless ideas, but I know that I'm safe because I will have one good idea. And he has had many good ideas that have made us a lot of money. I will have one good idea and that will have made it all worth it.
Mm.
I am complete. And that's how he it was less than 45 seconds to get his whole message out. And it was so gratifying for someone to say I can be so, and I will be the first one to tell people when we are having an idea session. I'll say, guys, this is about to be a terrible idea coming from me. Ah, and so, the idea is that, and they know the best idea is the one that's going to win. It doesn't have to be mine. It just has to be good. And if it's not good, that's okay too, because probably you got to go through a number of bad ideas to get to a good one. And the fact that that is acknowledged as being, at least at this moment, what our culture is being assessed to be suggests okay,
Yeah.
okay, something right is happening.
It's very interesting. The recent research shows that brainstorming sessions are not very effective, and they're not as effective as sending people home to come up with their own ideas and bring their own ideas back. What those research things don't, what these studies don't show is that they're often studying groups where, even though you may say there's no
Ideas
idea
are
that's not good enough, and we're
right,
not going to judge, we're just going to list, even though you may say that, people may not feel it. And one
right.
of the exercises that we've given to clients to great results is to say, all right, we're going to brainstorm on a number of different rubrics. Like, okay, how would your grandmother solve this idea? Okay, how would a poet solve this idea? Right? You can come up with any number of different characters. So this is not my idea. This is just my idea of what a grandmother would say.
Sure.
And so that actually does create some sense of safety. And then one of the most powerful frames like this is, what's your worst idea? and you get absolute gold. Very often, the idea itself that comes out is terrible and
Yes.
totally adjacent to something absolutely brilliant.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So we have not fought nearly as much as I would have hoped this session. I don't like it.
Sorry to disappoint you.
But absolutely yes. And I was playing a game with my, well, I know she doesn't like when I talk about her, but here we are. So I was playing a game with my daughter a couple nights ago where she was having a little bit of trouble figuring out how she wanted to approach a certain assignment. And we did something that I've been doing since I was a child. I said, "All right, well, you may not know how to write this, but can we invent a character who
Mm.
does? And what's her name?" And my daughter doesn't wear glasses, but she had a pair of broken glasses in another room. So we went and we got them, and we created this completely other persona that loved the thing she didn't want to do. And so we pretended, well, what would she need to laugh like, and how would she need to sound, and what would she need to talk about, and what would she need to effectively be to be the person that needed to deliver the result that was necessary.
Mm.
And what was neat was that she sat and she got the assignment done because she wasn't doing the work. She was pretending to be someone else that loved doing the work that was there. And so the idea is that you're allowing folks to reframe. And I guess for me, what I've learned is that there is such beauty in creativity. And part of my job is to foster an environment where creativity is allowed to flourish and folks are empowered to talk. And we see what comes out. You got to go through 10 bad ideas to get to one good one. As long as that good one serves the nature of what we're trying to get done together, then there be heroes.
Right on.
Then there be heroes. And I guess that's the thing, if we're coming full circle on the idea of culture, I know I want to have a culture, but I've come to a point in my career where I don't know that I want a stranglehold on what it gets to be. I know my values. I know the things that have served as the inspiration for the creation of the mission and the values of the company. I also know that there are some very powerful people in our organization that also have their finger on the pulse of what we should be doing,
Mm.
and trusting that they also have a vision and a say makes the pressure less on me to have to be the one to have and hold the vision.
Yeah.
And that's been the learning of the last 5 years. What are your thoughts?
Well, when it comes to what the hell is culture and who the hell cares,
Hmm.
I have habits of behavior, and I have habits. My attitudes also are habits,
Hmm.
and our habits really are contextual. One of the things I'm trying to remember the book that I read this in. It may come to me. If I go into my bathroom, down the hall to brush my teeth, I'm likely to brush my teeth in exactly the same pattern as I have every other day that I've brushed my teeth in the 20 years that I've lived in this house.
Yes.
And you just got back from Spain.
Hmm.
There's an excellent chance that when you were in some strange bathroom, the map that you followed to brush your teeth is different from the map that you followed in your bathroom. That's how contextual our
Yes.
habits are. And we can see that also in road rage, right? That people
Yeah.
behave in ways in their tiny little boxes hurtling down the freeway that they would never behave in any other context. And we also behave, you can see somebody light up, some sourpuss light up with a puppy.
Hmm.
Because that puppy is a different context from the one in which they are habitually a sourpuss.
Yes.
And so Who the hell cares? Well, there's all this talk about disengagement and entitlement and people just working for the weekend or working for the paycheck. All of that is habitual because of the context in which they have found themselves and the context that we have set in our companies and in which we are working. And one of some of the power of what culture can do is it can change the context so that even somebody who may behave in ways that aren't productive for a company in most of their habitual life may behave very, very differently if you provide a context that brings something out of them, something else, something different.
Malcolm Gladwell, and the concept is fundamental attribution error. That was what you were looking for, because that was the concept where the context of the behavior determines how you actually view and interact with the world.
Now I have a new book to put on my list. That's not the one. It was one of, I think about I think it's the book Persuasion, and
Okay.
the author of which I can't remember.
So I learned fundamental attribution error is the opposite, where you create an attribution based on the context of somebody's behavior.
Yeah.
And it's a very well studied phenomenon.
I raised my voice because of the context, because of what you did. You raised your voice because you're a jerk.
Yeah, of course.
That's the fundamental attribution error.
Of course. There you go. And well, so one of the things I used to do based on the very thing you're saying, and then we'll wrap up, is I would talk about the Mogadishu test. Now, I don't know if you know anything about Mogadishu, but it is not a really great place generally.
Yeah.
It's in a place that's considered a failed state, and it is not safe. Doesn't really have a government, doesn't really have working services. So the Mogadishu test is, I drop you in Mogadishu, you don't have any clothes, and you have no money. Who do you have to become to get yourself out and back home safely? Chances are you're not going to have any of the same habits. You're not going to have any of the same behavioral traits. You're probably going to have to do some things that you never thought possible or comfortable in order to negotiate your way out of that situation. And in a way, there are two things that are now possible. One, I used to teach the Mogadishu test from a fraud prevention standpoint, because the idea was you never know what somebody's capable of because you never know their context. A lot of things can change with things like drug addiction and significant loss and bipolar disorders and all sorts of other things that can absolutely change a person's context, and so the way they show up and in good faith. But the other side of that is also true, that if you can create and light a fire into a human being who is a universe wrapped in skin, never forget, the person in front of you is not simply an extrapolation of their skills and utility to you. They are a universe wrapped in skin with hopes, dreams, capacity, intelligence far beyond the thing you have asked them to do. So tapping into whatever perspectives might exist, you have no idea what kind of possibility is available and what they can create if they are appropriately motivated and or contextualized. And so there we go. So the reinforcing idea that you just suggested was the possibility to have them be and explore themselves as being different. I find that to be my job. How can I make it so that they are the best versions of themselves while they happen to be taking the trip with us?
And that's the work of leadership.
And in that, if you do it well enough, there be heroes. And I'm done. I appreciate you as always.
Right back at you. And thank you for joining us. I hope this has been a valuable conversation for you. I've had fun. Hugh, a friend of mine, likes to end our conversations with "Go be amazing." So, go be amazing.
I appreciate you.
Bye-bye.